Hello. I am James, and I live in Manchester in the UK. And you're listening to English with a Brew, a podcast where I talk about different day-to-day topics to help you learn English the most natural way possible. And that is only by listening to it. And if you want to support this podcast, read transcripts, and get exclusive access to more episodes, go to patreon.com/English with a Brew. As we say in Manchester, get a brew on, and let's get started. This episode, we're continuing with the topic of holidays and travel. And that is because, well, currently, at this moment, during the time that this episode is being released, I am on my holiday. But thankfully, on Spotify, I can schedule episodes so you don't have to miss one. How cool is that? Anyway, I made an episode about holidays, and I made an episode about airports. So this episode is all about aeroplanes and the rest of the things that happen after you board your plane or your flight. The first thing you do when you board your plane is look for your seat. And your seat number is on your boarding pass. The most important question, or the crucial question, is which seat do you prefer? The window seat or the aisle? Do you want a view outside the window? Or would you rather be closer to the toilets? Personally, I like to sit in the window seat. And that's because I like to look outside and watch the world pass below. I particularly enjoy it when the plane flies over the top of mountains and there's snow on the peaks on the top of the mountains that you can see. I find it incredible and amazing how something so big can look so small from above. The other question I have for you is, do you like to sit near the front of the plane or at the back? Or maybe somewhere in the middle? Some people like to be closer to the doors because they think they will get off the plane first. But I think it doesn't really matter. I don't have a preference. I don't mind waiting a little bit longer. Usually, on a long haul flight, we say long haul for a long distance flight, and we say short haul for short distances. There are 3 classes. The first class is called first class, and first class is where the most expensive and most comfortable seats are. The people in first class have more space. The food is better. Maybe they get a drink for free that they don't need to pay for. And then secondly, there is business class, which, to be honest, is still a very expensive, but usually less expensive, a little cheaper than the first class seats. And then finally, there's economy class, and I always fly... Did you guess? I always fly in economy. And that's because I cannot afford, or I don't have enough money for the other more expensive classes. When you have found your seat, the staff on the aeroplane, called the cabin crew, will do a safety demonstration. They will show you some things that help you be safe if there is an emergency during the flight. They show you how to open and close your seat belt. And they show you how to put on your life jacket. And they show you how to use the oxygen masks. And then you hear the pilot, the person flying the plane, talking on the radio. They say hello and tell you about your flight. Things like the weather in your destination, how long the flight will take, things like that. And eventually, you're prepared to take off. You're ready to take off. Then the plane moves to the runway, usually a little slowly, and then suddenly it starts to accelerate very fast until you take off, which is when you start to fly and the wheels leave the ground. After all of this, things are a little more relaxed. The plane goes up to a higher altitude, and the cabin crew sometimes brings food and drinks that you can buy, and you can use the toilet if you need it. Finally, near the end of your flight, the plane starts to descend to go back down to the ground. And when you get close to the ground, the pilot opens the landing gear, and the landing gear is the name for the wheels that come out of the bottom of the plane. And the plane comes down to land on the runway. And that is it. You arrive at your destination. Personally, I find flying in an aeroplane quite exciting. Usually, I am too excited to sleep. But I know that some people don't like to fly and they get nervous. But what about you? Do you like to fly? Where are you flying to next? Let me know. And that's everything for today's episode of English with a Brew. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you did or if you didn't, and tell me which topics you'd like to hear me talk about in future episodes. And don't forget, you can read the transcript for this episode and get access to more exclusive content over on my Patreon page. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time it is where you are right now. Take care.